All right, so here we are, day one, module one, or session one, if you will, AutoCAD and AutoCAD 2019 LT 2019 Level 1 Essentials. I'm going to start flipping the page here. I've moved. I don't think this affects your screen on your end, but I'm just moving the webcam out of the way, so the webcam will not. I'm recording my screen. My screen will look different than yours. So I'll flip into our PowerPoint. So here we are, a little after 9 a.m. We're starting session one, or part one of day one. I'm going to talk about the interface of AutoCAD, some of the features that we use in AutoCAD, the application menu, the quick access toolbar, the ribbon, and actually thought, okay, cool. Camtasia is a great little piece of software. And so we'll talk about the quick access toolbar, the ribbon, the status bar, the drawing window, the command window. I'll show you how to access help. I'll open a drawing file. In that drawing file, we'll issue some display commands, and at some point, we'll create and save our first drawing. What I'd like to do, though, is flip into AutoCAD and show you these things in context. So this is AutoCAD 2019, and it hasn't changed wildly since 2015. I always feel the need to say that. Not everyone, when they go back to the office or when they start using AutoCAD, will be using 2019. If you haven't installed AutoCAD yet, it'll most likely be 2019 or even 2020 that you'll be using for your work. But again, even 2020 doesn't look wildly different than what we see here. The student handout that I'm showing here, I'll flip to page 2, and page 2 is a really good example of how this document, probably a PDF on your end, is laid out. Heavy on graphic and pretty light on text. But I'm going to zoom in on the quick note area, and again, just like the PowerPoint said, we'll talk about the ribbon, the application menu, the quick access toolbar, and the status bar. And I'll flip into AutoCAD so you can see this in context. So the really any AutoCAD user, their main focus when using AutoCAD, if they're newer to AutoCAD, is going to be this large tool area at the top of the interface, and this is referred to as the ribbon. And the ribbon took the place of toolbars that we used to use in the past. The toolbars would be, sort of stacked vertically on the left side, stacked vertically on the right side, and horizontally at top and bottom. And Autodesk, the company that makes AutoCAD, they changed the interface about 2009 to look how we see it here. The idea was to sort of make AutoCAD look more like a Windows application, or not look more like it, but function sort of along the lines that in the 2009 timeframe, AutoCAD was only really installed on Windows software, or if you had a Mac, you could use like a Parallel or a Boot Camp or whatever. So the folks at Autodesk, they said, well, let's make AutoCAD look as much like any other Windows application, so it's more comfortable for those Windows users. So the toolbars that were there in the past, they sort of evolved into panels that are now living on the ribbon. In our level 1 class, our 2-day version, we spend almost all of our time on the home tab of the ribbon. And in fact, when you first install AutoCAD and you launch it, it launches you into the home tab, or onto the home tab. And the home tab is home to a draw panel. This is where we would find some draw tools we can use to create new shapes, new objects, add sprinkler lines that would look like sprinkler pipe, or symbols that look like sprinkler heads, that sort of thing. You might use the modify panel to move objects, certainly to copy objects. One of my favorite commands on the modify panel is the copy command, because when you have a drawing that has some artifacts already in it, like Microsoft Office, when you have these objects in your drawing, copying them is going to be a much quicker process than creating new ones. The annotation panel allows us to add text and dimensions to our drawings. The layers panel is where we create and move between layers. And my example, and I think your example too, there'd be layers that support the building environment, walls, doors, and window layers. but then you'll have more specified layers to the sprinkler system, sprinkler pipe, sprinkler heads, any activation devices, that sort of thing. Insert or the block panel is the panel where we'll insert other drawings into this drawing. In our class, the drawings that we insert will be a window and a door, but in the projects I used to work on with fire alarm, I would insert pole stations at the doors, smoke detectors in the ceilings, sometimes underfloor. If I had a raised floor situation, we had different kinds of detection devices. Those were typically separate drawings that were inserted into the current drawing in entirety, so we're not having to draw these things over and over again. However, there are other tabs on the ribbon. If I switch to the Insert tab, this tab is designed to allow me to insert any available file format into an AutoCAD drawing. Again, it's saving us the extra work of creating new line work. You can insert one drawing into another. You can convert line work into sort of block drawings, add text to your drawings and so forth. You can actually import PDFs. So the Insert tab allows you for the easy insertion of other file types into your current drawing. Annotate tab allows you to put text on your drawing, dimensions, sort of certain details that allow you, like center lines if you have a mechanical drawing or something like that. However, we spend most of our time on the Home tab. And on the tab, you've got, like I said, panels, draw panel, modify panel. On the panels, we have tools, and a lot of them are labeled like line and polyline and circle. Even the ones that are labeled, they'll produce a tooltip. This is called a tooltip. When you hover over a tool, it'll show you, what the name of that tool is, what kind of shapes, what kind of things you can create with that tool, which is very helpful for the tools that don't have labels. If you're using, right now I'm working on a laptop, and my laptop has a 17-inch screen, but I've got pretty high resolution. So this is, I think, the maximum number of labels you're going to see on your ribbon. With some computers, you might not see any labels. It just really reduces the resolution. And we'll show you the icons, but no labels. So in that situation, you would rely pretty heavily on your tooltip to get used to which tool is which. However, after a while, you'll get used to your move icon is like a north, south, east, west symbol. Your copy icon is one circle turning into two circles. Your line icon is a diagonal line being drawn. Polyline is a line with a hook on it or an arc on it. So they become pretty recognizable. That's the ribbon. The ribbon has the ability to minimize. There's a little sort of icon or a little button just about midway at the top where the tabs are. There's four different display modes for your ribbon. If I left click on that minimize to panel buttons, I'll go ahead and left click on that. It's going to change the appearance of the ribbon, so I have one icon per panel, and if I hover over the panel expands and shows me the tools on that panel. I can just left click on the icon and start drawing or whatever. I click that minimize button again, and it minimizes me down to a single label per panel. And the idea behind that is, again, it's just showing you more drawing window. This is the drawing window, and less ribbon in this case. The behavior is the same though. If I hover over draw, there are my tools. Hover over properties, there are my tools, and so forth. Third left click minimizes me down to a single title per tab, and if I left click on Home tab, it expands and it shows me the tools. Now I can left click my command, and when I move away from the ribbon, it will fold up and get out of my way. So there's the final click, that fourth click, just restores us back to full display mode. And this is a nice display mode for a larger monitor or what have you. So your comfort level will increase pretty quickly when you start using the ribbon. Again, because it is sort of like a, I think as you said, like Microsoft Office, it really is formatted the same way. Other features of the, where have you gone? There it is right there. Other features will be the application menu, which is at the upper left corner of the interface. The application menu, really, right now, you'd refer to it as the application button. It is sitting there waiting to be pushed. Once you left click that big red A in the upper left corner, it opens up and shows a menu that really allows us to treat your AutoCAD file as a holistic object, where a lot of the tools in AutoCAD allow me to work on a very defined or refined part of the environment. Like I can draw a line in a specific place, I can erase that line from a specific place. The application menu treats the file as a whole. Open an existing file, create a new file, save the work that I've done on my file, save it as other file formats, which can be handy if you're sharing your files with other people. Import files, export files, publish them or print them. They're kind of the same, but publish it was typically you're creating an electronic format you can email to somebody. Print is typically you're printing to paper or PDF or what have you. Suite workflow is if you've got other software attached to your AutoCAD, it'll kind of let you develop a workflow. If you're starting in AutoCAD and moving to like a piping software, it'll help you ease that process. Drawing utilities, this is one of the main things that we'll use in class, or that we use in class, is that we can format certain aspects of our drawing file from the drawing utilities. There's also commands that allow us to sort of check the health of an AutoCAD drawing, which is kind of a weird thing to say, health, but any file, any computer file can become infected with viruses or have issues with the code, and the audit command allows us to sort of check the stability of our drawing and so forth. And then you can close. Like if I click close, it'll close the software. I'm going to come back to that menu for a second. And so what I've done with my application menu, I've expanded the number of recent documents that will display in my application menu. The default number of documents that display here is 9. And I was working on a series of drawings last week, a lot of drawings, and it kind of made sense to have access to the highest number of recent files, so I could quickly jump back into those files. Again, if you've never used AutoCAD, if you had AutoCAD installed, you might have no files here, or 1 or 2 files. This just is based on how many files you've had open in the recent past. Any file you work with has the ability to be pinned to your application menu. These are little push pins like you might see on a bulletin board. If I left click on this pin opposite the residential CAD.dwg file that pins that document to my application menu, it will never go away. It'll just sort of stay there for life. I'll unpin that, and once I unpin it, it'll cycle off. But if you're working on an extended project, it's a good idea to, it'll be a convenience to pin that drawing to your application menu. There is, at the top of the application menu, a window where our cursor will flash when you first open up the application menu. It's there for a second. This would allow you to find commands. The window is actually called Find Command Location Window, and I'll type in LINE, and it's totally changed the appearance of the application menu. I am currently seeing line at the top of the list, construction line next, linear, and so forth. This tool will help us, or this part of the menu helps us find where the command is. It's saying the ribbon tab is home, the panel is draw, the command is line. So now I sort of know where it is for the future. I don't have to do this. I don't have to search again in the application menu to find that tool. But I can also hit enter, and that will actually start the command in question, and I can start using that command. So that you may not need to use that for a long period of time, but as you're getting started with AutoCAD, it might help to use that search location, command location window. Now, also on page 2, there's something called the Quick Access Toolbar that was referred to, and I tend to use the quick access toolbar, which I'm sort of hovering and highlighting with my little circle device here. This is the quick access toolbar. It gives us quick access to a lot of the same commands that are on the application menu. It just gets you more quickly into that command. No labels here, strictly icons and tooltips. If I hover over the new icon, a little tooltip tells me that's the new command. Hover over the open icon, that's open. It's like they're kind of universal icons. If I go back to Publisher, Microsoft Office, there's a little bit more silhouetted blank piece of paper with the dog-eared corner, the folded corner, the folder icon, the floppy disk icon. All the same iconography is used, just a little bit differently. These are sort of shaded in. They have a little bit more detail than you might see in an Office product, but they're the same icons. The plotter, printer icon, undo. Undo is active. I've done something that can be undone. My redo is inactive. Apparently I've not done anything that can be redone. And then these two cell phone icons are native to, this is the difference between AutoCAD 2019 and earlier versions. These are tools that can be used to pull drawings down from the web or upload drawings to the web. They say web and mobile. If you're private sector, there's a chance you might use these tools more frequently than someone from the federal government. The federal government, they have extremely high security regulations and guidelines for safety purposes, where the private sector, they're a little bit more loose. So you could work with, say you work with an architect who needs sprinkler design, they could upload a drawing to mobile and send you an email, let you know that that drawing is available for you to work on. You could download it. So private sector folks are going to use these mobile devices more frequently than federal government. Finally, the status bar is the last thing on page 2 that we talk about. And the status bar has they're tools, but they're not really commands per se. The very bottom of AutoCAD, where I'm highlighting this tab, this model tab next to these two layout tabs, your model and layout tabs are on the status bar. That's where the status bar starts on the left side, and the status bar ends on the right side with this 3-line menu, this 3-line icon. That's a customization menu. It allows you to add additional tools or commands to your status bar. There's a handful that are visible right now, starting at the word model and then moving into this, this is called display drawing grid on. This is also called grid mode. Hovering over restrict cursor to specified angles, that's polar tracking. These are tools that they're not really standalone tools. They're used to make our drawing process more accurate. We'll use well, namely the grid. If you can see the detail on my screen, I'm not sure how detailed this go-to training is. I think it's pretty detailed. There's a grid presence in my drawing window, or a grid present in my drawing window. And if I click on this grid button, it turns off. Or if I click it again, it turns back on. So the way these buttons on the status bar work is they're either on or they're off. And when they're on, they affect some part of the process of creating AutoCAD drawings, and the button associated with that command or that aid is highlighted in blue. So the name status bar gets its name because it'll show you the status of your helper tools. Currently, grid is on, the button is blue, I can see the grid. If I left click on that blue grid button, it turns the grid off and I no longer see the grid in my drawing window. So these are things, a number of these things are on by default when you first launch AutoCAD, or when a user first launches AutoCAD, like it's installed, and you turn AutoCAD on. Sometimes your grid will be on. That one is a real matter of preference, whether you like to use the grid or not. You can choose to have it on or not. Then this polar tracking will be on, and I won't explain all of these tools, but I'll explain a number of these tools that will impact us in this introduction. They are intended to make our drawing process easier and more accurate. So that's your status bar. And below the status bar, we're out of AutoCAD. Now I'm looking at the taskbar of my computer, and I've got a lot of icons that are sort of pinned here. You can pin a number of icons to your taskbar of your computer, and also it will show you what you have as open applications. Like I have Camtasia running, so it's showing an icon on my taskbar. So that is unrelated to AutoCAD, except that it's showing us other applications that are running on the computer that's currently running AutoCAD. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to check the chat window, and okay, so it looks like no questions so far, and we're just kind of doing a high level of the interface of AutoCAD. I'm going to come back into the publisher file, zoom out a little bit, and I'll turn to page 4, page 5. So the main feature in AutoCAD, I'm going to get a sip of water here for a second. The main feature in AutoCAD is something called the drawing window. And I'm going to zoom in on the quick notes area here. It says the drawing window or canvas. So back in 2009, I think they floated the idea of calling the drawing window the canvas. Some people do use that term. I am not one of those people. I've been using AutoCAD since '95 or something like that, and it was the drawing window then. It's the drawing window now to me. But if you were ever to call the help desk and the help desk person said, "Well, what are you seeing in your canvas?" You know, well, the canvas is the drawing window. So that's kind of a weird. I just want to alert you to that. So the quick note says, model and layout tabs below the drawing window allow users to toggle between working and printing environments. So what does that mean? Well, the drawing window, that's what we're seeing right here. When you get AutoCAD installed and you double click the icon, or you click the icon, like on my taskbar, I only need to single click the icon to launch AutoCAD. On the desktop, I need to double click the icon to launch AutoCAD. When AutoCAD gets launched initially, it launches to look like this. This is the Start tab of AutoCAD. And I don't know if I can relate it to anything in terms of Microsoft Office, but this is AutoCAD launched, and we're not looking at an active drawing file. And this is actually called the Create tab of the Start, Create portion of the Start tab. And you can just click Start Drawing, and that will allow you to create a new drawing. You can access recent documents and so forth. The Learn portion, this is kind of good to know. If I click on the Learn portion down here, it will show you a series of videos that are created by Autodesk, the company that makes AutoCAD. And what we're doing right now is a tour of the interface. You know, I could shut up and just press play on this thing, and you would receive. I mean, that's funny because it's the video is queued up to look at the Start tab right now. So if you see videos, you see what's new. You're on the Learn portion of the Start tab. If I click Create, that puts me where I can start drawing, you know, from existing drawings, recent documents, or create a new one. So before class started this morning, I clicked Start Drawing, and it launched me into this blank drawing, called it Drawing 1, and there's not a lot happening in here. But typically when you launch a default or stock template from AutoCAD, and there's 10 or 12, you're deposited in this sort of black environment here. This is called model space, and the word model will show on the taskbar, on the status bar of AutoCAD, bottom left corner where the model and layout tabs are, and far right or right of midpoint on the status bar, you'll see model there as well. So the model environment, the term model is often used for someone who's working on a design. Modeling is like experimenting or testing. They're laying things out, seeing how they feel. A floor plan can often be referred to as a model. Even a two-dimensional floor plan can be referred to as a model. A three-dimensional floor plan or design is much more frequently called model. But the model or the floor plan will live primarily in model space. Someone who creates the floor plan for your design will create it in this environment. They'll create it full size. They'll draw, I'm sitting in a room, it's about 10 by 10 right now. If I were going to draw that room, I would, I could use a rectangle, or I could use a line. I could draw a 10-foot square. That allows us to put in real sized, windows, doors, and everything, and we're not having to, scale things down at a uniform scale factor. Where, if you've ever worked in the field doing piping install or certification install. Okay, good. That's great. Thanks for saying that. I was just reading your note. You're following me pretty well. That's great. Well, I think that's not me per se. I think it's the way AutoCAD's laid out. They kind of did a good job of laying AutoCAD out. So it took a while to get there, but to make it more, I don't know if I can use the words user-friendly, but to make it more, somewhat more intuitive to someone who's used any kind of software. I find that when I have young students, I experienced this the first time some years ago. One of the salespeople that I worked with, he was at least 20 years younger than me, and I said, I'm 50 now. Let's call him 22. Like I think you said you're 22. He was a young guy, and he was in this class, and it was about now or very early in the process. I walked behind where he was sitting, and I looked at his computer, and his drawing was done. I'm like, what the heck? It should have been. He shouldn't have been nowhere near as done. I'm like, have you used AutoCAD before? He's like, no, but I've used computers before, and it's just sort of folks who are younger. They've been around computers their entire life. Folks who are older, calling myself out here, we were introduced to computers later in life, so it's been not always as smooth a transition. That's kind of where I'm going with that, so I can't take credit for it. But anyways, the drawing window has two kind of display modes. We're seeing it in model right now, where we create the floor plan. When we go to print, it's not going to be very dramatic in this drawing because this is a very raw, unedited drawing. But if I click on Layout 1 or Layout 2, it totally changes the appearance of the drawing window. And that's by design. There's a lot of things in AutoCAD that are subtle. There are subtle changes that occur when you're in different command modes or you're in different environments. Some are less subtle, and I think less subtle is sometimes better as you're getting used to the software that you're using. Layout 1 and Layout 2 in a brand new drawing are basically identical. They are environments that used to be called paper space. In fact, parts of the interface of AutoCAD still refer to the term paper space. We use that very frequently in the past with AutoCAD. Model space was where your drawing lived. Paper space is where your border lived, and you would print from paper space. The reason they call it paper space is your typical output media is paper. You might print on paper, you might print on high quality paper, like a vellum or a mylar, but they're sort of in the paper family. Some are plastic, but you get the idea. They stopped calling it paper space because it wasn't really an accurate catch-all any longer once people started plotting to PDF, or they might even do a 3D print or any number of things that are not paper. So this is layout space. But this white rectangle showing here on in the drawing window, this is actually supposed to be a piece of paper. It's 8.5 by 11 paper by default, and that paper size is changeable. The dotted line that we see inside the extreme outer edge of your paper is it's called the printable area, is its actual technical name. It's the margin. It's the margin that we would that would be imposed by whatever printer is assigned to print your drawing. Moving inside of the margin, we have this rectangle or square. It's called a viewport, and that viewport is looking into the model environment where we were a minute ago. If I go back to model, you can see the grid. I come to layout space, I'm seeing that same grid. I can enlarge the view, I can shrink the view. So it's this viewport that allows us to take designs of residential and commercial sized buildings and shrink them down to fit on 8.5 by 11 or 24 by 36-inch paper. The viewport is scalable. So we'll work on that. I'll just show you how to configure your viewport to show your drawing and what have you. So that there isn't a ton of work that gets done in layout space for the most part. You know, we're together roughly I want to say 12 hours in this class. The 2-day class is about 6 hours per day, and out of those 12 hours, we probably spend about 1 hour or less getting this area ready to print. And once it's ready to print, we typically don't change it too much. There may be some information that will change, like the date, the delivery date, things like that. But this area, a ton of work doesn't get done. Most of the work is done in model space. So I'll flip back to model, the model tab on the status bar, and I'm back in this environment. Good. Okay, cool. So let's go back to the book here. I think we talked about the drawing window probably more than you wanted to. In the quick notes area, it says the symbol in the bottom left corner of the drawing window is the user coordinate system icon. So I'm going to show you that little icon. I'll highlight it in the bottom left corner. This is called the user coordinate system icon, or UCS icon. And if I pan just right, I can get that icon to come out of the corner. So AutoCAD software, and so AutoCAD, any software that deals with locations on a drawing will deal with coordinate systems. That's not entirely true, but for more traditional drafting software like AutoCAD, you have a coordinate system. Right now, where this icon is sitting, it's sitting at a coordinate called 0, 0, or 0x and 0y. The drawing window is divided into coordinates that are x. They're x related in the vertical, y related in the horizontal. And you can kind of even see that on your UCS icon. Pointing to the right horizontally is x, pointing up the screen vertically is the y. And that's typical, like a default setting for an AutoCAD drawing. Your x is horizontal, your y is vertical. You actually have a third coordinate that is the z value that's pointing straight at you when you're in a top-down drafting mode, which the symbol in the upper right corner of the drawing window can alert you to. That's called the view cube, and if it shows top, you're looking down on your drawing. So there's coordinates, like if I were to start at 0x and 0y and start moving diagonally away from that location at 1-inch increments, I would move to a coordinate called 1, 1 or 2, 2 or 3, 3. Bringing the crosshairs, these little things here, these are called crosshairs in the drawing window. If I bring the crosshairs back, I'm back over the coordinate 0, 0. If I were in a command, you could see this. If I can't get it perfectly there, but if I hover over the UCS icon, I get pretty close to. I can actually cheat, and I'll turn on my snap function. There we go. So with the snap function showing, you probably can see the coordinates pretty small, but I'm at a coordinate right now of 0, 0, or 0x and 0y. If I move away from that, sort of diagonally, I'm at -5, -5, a little further. I'm at -1, -1. So the coordinates are sort of positive, moving up and right from your UCS icon. They're negative, moving down and left. Ultimately, today's AutoCAD user does not need to be terribly aware of the coordinate system. The mouse is developed to the point where you can snap new line work to old line work. You can create new line work. You can use the coordinates, but they're not terribly important to us, at least not as they used to be. Nowadays, what's more important, if you're working on a sprinkler design, so I'm in a building right now in Alexandria, Virginia, and this building is, I want to say it's like 100,000 square feet or something like that. It's a lot. It's a good sized building. Things you would care about is where the sprinkler control room is, what kind of room is this, how close am I to the walls, that sort of stuff. The coordinates are a little less important. The only coordinate we'll worry about in this class is 0x and 0y, and we'll just start newer drawings at that coordinate location. So that's kind of what's happening near that UCS icon. Some drawings don't even use this. Some AutoCAD users turn this off. They don't want to see it. They just turn it off. It's of so little importance, they turn it off. So I'll show you, I'll sort of point that out to you as we're going through some drawings. And then I'm going to zoom out a little further here. There's something called the command window. It's kind of funny it's not shown here. The drawing window or canvas. Then we have the command window. I guess it is shown here. The command window or command line. You can type commands here instead of using menus or buttons. And I'll kind of show you that. The command window is shown undocked in this graphic that shows all of AutoCAD and in the graphic that just shows the command window. In my interface, the command window is spanning the bottom of the drawing window, and it is anchored or docked. And in our training room, we have training rooms that are stocked with training computers, 8 machines per room. This command window is docked. Whoever installed AutoCAD, they elected to have it docked. So I show mine docked. If I left click on this, there's 3 features at the far left side of the command window. There's a little wrench that allows you to customize your command window. There's an X that allows you to dismiss, get rid of the command window. I don't recommend doing that. And then there's a little set of bumps, a little set of dots. These dots are like the checkered area of a tool that you might work on a car with, like a ratchet or a wrench. That's a grip. And if I left click and hold that grip, I can pull the command window and put it wherever I want. I can put it at the top of the screen, like you see there. I can drag it to the middle of the screen. I don't know why I'd want to do that, but I can. Or I can drag it to the bottom of the screen and leave it unanchored. However the user displays the command window, what it does is it shows the user what command is active. And when the command window says type a command, that means no command is active. Actually, AutoCAD spends most of its time between commands. Now, if I click the polyline button on the draw panel, left click polyline, I have started a command called, it's called polyline, but it's abbreviated on the command line. It's just P-line, specify start point. So now I can type in a coordinate if I want to. I can type in 0, 0 and press enter, and now my crosshairs are attached to my UCS icon by what's called a rubber band line. That stretchy kind of behaves like a rubber band. Right? So I've responded to the first command line prompt. I've specified the first point. Now it says specify next point. Here I won't type coordinates. I'll just start left clicking. I'll move and left click. I'll move and left click, and I'm just snapping points. AutoCAD is drawing a line between those points. On the command line, it just keeps saying specify next point. And then if I have command line options available to me, I'll see them on the command line. Like if I click close, it took me back to my start point and ended the command. So now again I'm between commands. So the command line or the command window sort of coaches you. It's sort of a vague method of coaching, but it vaguely coaches you through how to use your AutoCAD drawing tools and so forth to create drawings. So you actually have supplemental information. Maybe you saw that. If I start that same command again, at my crosshairs, at the bottom right corner, this is a dynamic input tooltip. Dynamic input is another tool that's on by default. It's an assist tool that allows you to see the command prompts not just at the bottom of the screen, but at your crosshairs, where you're more likely to be looking anyways. If there's anything exciting happening in AutoCAD, it's going to be right at your crosshairs. I think it's pretty cool too. I've been using AutoCAD for a long time, and I still think it's cool software. And I enjoy the hell out of it. Like my job was always, I always had a number of aspects to my job. Site survey, design meetings, who knows what else. But a lot of it was AutoCAD, and I always look forward to my AutoCAD time. So that's a visual cue right there. If I see my dynamic tooltip, it means I'm in a command. It doesn't tell me what command I'm in, but the command line will tell me. So the command line is it's sort of AutoCAD's communication portal for us. Some software, and I'm going to pick on Publisher just because it's up. When you're in a command, you don't always know it. There's a number of commands here that are available on the ribbon, and if I start one, let's say what's a good one to start? There's a text box here somewhere. I don't even know where it is. I draw a text box. I'll left click on this. Right, so I've started a command. There's nothing telling me, how to move forward. So that's kind of a separator for AutoCAD because there's so many commands, and they're all a little different. AutoCAD sort of tells us how to use them, and that's what the command line is for. All right, what else do we have there in page 2? Page 4. That's it for page 4, but on page 5, we have this right-click menu. And if you've used any software at all in the distant or recent past, you've seen right-click menus. The page 5 could just go away, I guarantee it. But if I right-click my mouse, right-click, I'll get what's called a right-click menu. And I can't tell you the numbers in AutoCAD, but most of the clicking that we do with our mouse is a left mouse click. I left-click to select an object. I left-click to select a command to use on that object. I left-click to change tabs. And what else do I do? A lot of left-clicking. But when I right-click, I'll get a menu. This is a very generic right-click menu, sort of middle of the drawing window. Anywhere in the drawing window, I'll get the same sort of generic right-click menu. If I right-click over the command window, I get a very specific right-click menu. Really, it's geared towards something to do with the command line. I can see commands I've recently issued. I can change my input settings. I can enable, disable features, and so forth. So that right-click menu is just for the command window. If I right-click over any part of the ribbon, this right-click menu is just for the ribbon. So I can add commands to the Quick Access Toolbar. One of my favorite commands, or one of my favorite tools, not only a command, but this window right here on the layer panel, this shows me what is the active layer in my drawing. In a brand new drawing, you only got one layer, it's layer 0. But if I right click over that window, I can add it to the Quick Access Toolbar. So it just showed up here. And that's kind of redundant. It's almost stupid to have it there when I'm on the Home tab. But when I'm on the Annotate tab, I can't see what layer is current unless I do this. Now I can see there's layer 0. So that right-click menu allowed me to customize my interface, a little bit. So your right-click menus are shortcuts to something, changing something in your drawing, changing something with the AutoCAD interface. Pardon me. All right. Questions on the AutoCAD interface at all? Questions at all? Cool. All right, flipping the page, going on to page 6 and page 7. Page 6 talks about help in AutoCAD. And, when I'm in a class, when I'm in the classroom, I'll say, okay, who here is a big fan of help? Who loves to access help? And usually there's 1 or 2 people per class. Often engineers love to sort of get into manuals and textbooks and help and that sort of thing. But usually it's a larger number of people are not into help. They'd rather talk to a person. But sometimes you don't have a person there to talk to, so you've got to get into help. If I don't know how to use a tool, I need to use help to help me learn how to use that tool. The graphic on page, I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. The graphic on page 6, it's not entirely clear, but what's happening is someone has hovered over the offset button, and then while they're hovering over that button, they pressed F1, and that took them to the help topic specific to offset. So here's what it looks like. I'm going to hover over offset. Offset's one of the buttons that's not labeled on the modify panel. So here's the modify panel, and bottom right corner of the modify panel is a command called offset. And if I'm hovering over it and I press F1, that brings me right to, if AutoCAD's working properly, it takes me right to the offset command. Shows me the button. And this is kind of weird that it would show me the button because I was hovering over it, but there are other ways to get to this page, so it kind of needs to show me, you know, how did I get here? How do I get to this page? If I click find, this is the button is currently hidden. It's not hidden. If I move this, can I move it? There we go. Now let's try it again. It says it's hidden. I can see it right there. Anyways, usually if my AutoCAD is functioning properly, it should point to the button, but I know where it is anyways. So it says offset, creates concentric circles, parallel lines, parallel curves, and so forth. So it kind of allows us to create the scenario that we see here in the help window. I'll exit out of that and then say I hover over fillet, and press F1. So here's the fillet command. You know, it rounds and fillets corners and edges. So the easiest way, if you have to use help, the easiest way to use it is to hover over the command, the button, hover over the button you want to learn how to use the command for, and then press F1. So here in this case, I may have pulled off of the button. This is page 1 of help. This is the same thing you would see if you just click the help icon at the top right corner of the interface. I'll click help. There I have it. So here's help. You know, it's like page 1 of help. I could type in a keyword like offset. And typically, if you want to learn about a command, it helps to put the word command after the word, because there's more than one. You can see how many things came up for offset. So I'll choose offset command, and now I've got a list. I got to choose a list. I'll find offset command selected, and that got me to where I wanted to be. It's a little more involved if you go up to the help icon and start help versus if you were to hover over a button and so forth, and then press F1. So I'll dismiss that for now. So the video that I'm recording right now, we're about 47 minutes into it, and I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and I'll send you the link. So for 2 days, 4 sessions, there'll probably be 8 videos for a 2-day class at about 90 minutes per session. I only bring up YouTube because that's my favorite resource for help. If I need to learn how to do something, I go to YouTube. I know I had a client ask for a 1-day class on a very specified topic, a topic that I'm usually teaching 30 minutes on, and this client wanted 6 to 8 hours. I'm like, whoa! So I went, I went to YouTube and I watched about 12 hours of videos. Not all of it was perfectly adapted to what I wanted to know, but it really gave me an idea of how other AutoCAD users were using these commands, and it helped me build a decent class. So YouTube, I think, is my favorite resource for help. Let's move forward. Going on to page 8 and page 9. Page 8 and page 9 shows, there just doesn't need to be this much information on this topic, how to open a drawing file. Opening a drawing file in AutoCAD is no different than opening a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or anything like that. I'll come into AutoCAD, and the icon, my help is still open. I'll close help. Maybe it closed itself. I don't see it any longer. So I'm in AutoCAD. On the Quick Access toolbar, we have the first icon there is new. I don't want to create a new drawing. I want to open an existing drawing. So I'll click the folder icon, and that's open. And I've already gone to this folder once today. So I have a folder called AutoCAD 2019 Level 1. Been here once before. I teach out of this folder about once a week. Maybe not quite once a week, but almost. Usually when you click new, the first place you're taken to on your computer is the Documents folder, whatever the Documents folder is for that computer. The thought behind our software is, well, we're going to be pulling documents from our My Documents, but really you're going to pull them probably from the network more frequently. You would use this look-in window. The look-in window, it actually says look-in to the left of it. You open up the look-in window and you would drill into, maybe your H drive, or you drill into your Q drive or whatever your drive is. In this case, I'm on the Documents folder. There we go. And I'm looking for a folder called AutoCAD 2019 Level 1. I'll double click on that. And the drawing I'm looking for is, I guess I don't have the class file for viewing and plotting. Usually I have a larger drawing, and I don't see it here. So I'm going to click on Bedroom Manual. And this is a very basic drawing. I'll select that and click Open. There we go. So this particular drawing is a drawing that we work on in this class. It's pretty schematic. It's very sort of skeletal. And we've got really two things happening in this drawing. We've got lines that represent walls, and we've got dimensions that show us how far apart the major features are along the walls. Like I've got a window opening that sets 1 foot 6 inches away from the outside edge of this wall, if you will, and same thing on the other side. So this is a very basic drawing. You may have this as part of your group of files if you downloaded them. We're in the printing environment. We're in Paperspace, and the Layout tab that would ordinarily say Layout 1 or Layout 2 has been renamed to OLE Viewport, OLE Viewport 2, OLE Viewport 3. These are renameable just like Excel. If you work in Excel at all, you can rename your sheets so they are, it's not just sheet 1, sheet 2. That's not very descriptive. So this is the printing environment. There actually is very little for me to edit in this environment. In fact, that viewport window is the only thing that's in this environment. If I left click that viewport window and click delete, I just deleted the window. It looks like I deleted dozens of things, but I just deleted one thing. Even the command line tells me I erased one thing. That's kind of what that means, erase one found. So now that I've erased that, I'll use the undo. Actually, undo is grayed out. This can be kind of scary when you're in a drawing and your undo is grayed out. It's like, no, I just did something. Can we please undo it? Well, if the undo button is inactive, I'm going to cheat, and that sounds very negative, but it's kind of a cheat. I'll hold down my control key and press the letter Z, control Z, control Z. So I did that a couple times to undo what I did. Control Z is shortcut, Windows shortcut for undo. And a lot of the Windows shortcuts that you may already know from other software work in AutoCAD, which I didn't know that for a long time. I think I used AutoCAD for a solid 10 years before I knew that, Control Z was undo. So there's undo right there, and AutoCAD undo is also you enter, or you can click that that window there. You may have gotten this. Where are you, AutoCAD? When did I last use this? Let's see if let me open this up. Yes, it'll work. So this is a cheat sheet that I think is part of your download, and here's the Windows commands. It just ironically took me right to that. Control A, select all. Control C, copy. Control X for cut, and so forth. So all these things originated well outside the AutoCAD environment, but they work great here if you're a keyboard person. If not, these things all exist somewhere else in the software. Okay, I'll upload it. That's fine. So it's a very easy process for me to upload and for you to download. It takes seconds. I'll do that just before the break starts. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Back in AutoCAD, the drawing window. Oh, so there's not a lot of stuff in this drawing. So when I go to start working on this drawing, I want to really edit this drawing. We'll go to the Model tab, and I'm zoomed in really crazy close to this. This is how it got left. So it's kind of a different look. If I look here, I can see the whole floor plan, model space. If I click that tab again, whoever used this drawing last, they zoomed in, and at the bottom right corner, it's even hard to tell what we're looking at. But opening a drawing file, not a difficult process. When you're finally in an open drawing, page 10 and page 11 talks about the display commands. Display commands allow you to pan and zoom your drawing. And the graphic here, I'm going to zoom in on it. The easiest way to pan and zoom a drawing is to use the scroll button or the mouse wheel on your mouse. And there's some little tips right here down in the bottom left corner. Using the mouse wheel, scroll up to zoom in, scroll mouse down, zoom out, double click mouse to zoom extents, click and hold mouse to pan. So there's 4 commands that are just in the mouse wheel, this guy right here. And what's nice about that is so much other software functions that same way. So I'm zoomed in like crazy close on my floor plan. I'm going to double click the wheel and that zoomed me out, so now I can see the whole thing. That's a great command if you're zoomed in somewhere and like, where the heck am I in this drawing? Just double click the wheel and it zooms you out. Now you can see the whole drawing. Now I want to start zooming, like I want to see, well, how big is this door opening in this little closet on the right side of the floor plan? I'll put my crosshairs right on that number and I'll roll the wheel forward and it zooms me in so I can see, oh, it's 2 feet 6. I'll roll the wheel backward and I'll point at the neighboring door opening, roll the wheel forward. Oh, that one's also 2 feet 6. Roll the wheel backward, zoom in. So there's 2 commands that you'll use a lot. One of them is zoom in, which is just rolling the wheel forward, and really pointing your crosshairs makes the process a little bit more user-friendly. It's taking you into a specific area of the drawing so you can see, what you're seeing. If I put the crosshairs in a blank area and roll the wheel forward, I zoom to that blank area, so now I can't see the drawing. But I'll roll the wheel backward and I'll point near this, roll the wheel forward. You don't need to zoom in too much on this drawing. It's not a very big drawing. And I don't have a larger one. Usually I have a larger drawing in my, if I get into modify commands, this drawing will open to do some modify commands. If I want to zoom in to a specific area like the erase area, zoom into the extend trim area, it is very helpful to use the mouse wheel. And that is just a command that is, or a set of commands. The mouse wheel is enabled in other software like Google Maps and so forth. So there's 4 commands. One is roll the wheel forward to zoom in, roll the wheel backward to zoom out, push and hold that wheel to pan, and push and hold the wheel down. I'm panning. And then I'll double click the wheel, click to zoom extents, and those are the 4 commands. And I always think of those commands are the most important things that we cover in the first session, because when you're working on a drawing and you want it to be accurate, one part of the accuracy, sort of one ingredient, is zooming in so you can see where you're working. All right, let's see. Yeah, very good. You're right. It's a very natural, like second nature. It's perfect. Awesome. All right, let's stop there for this morning. We'll say we'll do we're at 10:25 East Coast. Let's do a 20-minute break. Stretch your legs, get some refreshment, whatever you need to do. I'm going to set a timer here. There's a little timer, and I'll set it for, I'm going to give you 20 for the first session so you can get your legs stretched out and so forth, and hit the bathroom if you need to. When we come back, we'll talk about creating new drawings and more stuff. Questions on anything at all so far? All right, see you in a bit. I'm going to hit the timer. Starting the timer. See you in a bit. And can I pause this? I'll pause the webcam.